Introduction. The road to world fame. The first sales are at 5. The first company, at 17. Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of Ikea, felt a craving for business since childhood. He masterfully maneuvered between competitors, opened new shops, searched for unusual ideas and, at the same time, saintly kept the values and principles of his company alive. The family spirit that is clearly felt at Ikea has been the subject of doctoral dissertations and research by Harvard professors. In the following insights you'll find out how difficulties make the Ikea company stronger, where accidents lead, how Ikea principles help them to become a world-famous company. Insight 1. Since childhood, Ingvar Kamprad has been doing what he liked and succeeded in doing it. Ingvar Kamprad always liked to trade. Perhaps he got that passion from his mother. Ingvar's first sale was matches. His aunt helped him buy 100 boxes of matches on sale for 88 euro. The boy sold each box for 2 or 3 euro and some for even 5 euro. Ingvar Kamprad wasn't even 5 years old. After several successful sales of matches, pens and other goods, he bought his mother a bike, and a typewriter for himself. Ingvar's first customers were his neighbors, the villagers like him. The young entrepreneur knew his customers and their needs, so it was easy for him to offer them the goods they needed. If he was in a different environment, who knows how his company would have evolved and what efforts Ingvar would have had to make to develop the business. When Ingvar was in high school, the children's business gradually began to take on the shape of a real company. Ingvar was selling all this stuff to his neighbors and friends. However, sometimes things didn't go smoothly. Ingvar suffered his first defeat early in the journey. He ordered pens from a supplier at a bargain price, made a small markup, and advertised the goods. After receiving the money, Ingvar went to get the goods and was horrified to find out that the price had suddenly risen almost twice. He still bought 200 pens, sent them to the first customers and started thinking about what to do next. He saved his reputation by sending other pens to the buyers, but at that moment he was almost ruined. An interesting lesson for Ingvar Kamprad was taught by a watch salesman. He offered the young businessman a batch of watches for 55 krones. Ingvar honestly said he couldn't afford it. The seller softened and reduced the price to 52 krones. Ingvar complained that the profit would be small, but still agreed to the price. Then the watch salesman said, "Young man, you will never be a businessman. And when I offered it to you for 52 krones, you gladly agreed without trying to negotiate it for 51 krones and 50 euro. One thing you should remember is that in business, even 10 euro matter." Since then, I've just become obsessed with trading. Ingvar Kamprad. Insight 2. The creation of Ikea was a natural result of Ingvar Kamprad's passion for trade. Selling is what Ingvar loved most in the world. So it makes sense that he decided to officially start his own firm at the first opportunity. This happened in 1943. Ingvar was 17 at the time. He came from Elmterred farm to a Gunnerid village, where his guardian lived, to get permission to start a company. A paper was signed in the kitchen authorizing Ingvar to start his own company. So Ikea was born. I, Ingvar, K, Kamprad, E, Elmterred, A Gunnerid. To better run the company, Ingvar went to commercial school. He was particularly interested in distributing. He realized that the cheaper it was to buy the product, the cheaper it could be sold, but the volumes would be much larger. So still, Ikea's position is that it's better to sell 12 million goods for $3 than 3 million goods for $5. Ingvar Kamprad started selling furniture in 1948. Before that, he sold pens, cards, wallets, watches and other small things. There were several small furniture manufacturers in his area, and this determined the company's assortment. Ingvar began to advertise a model of an armchair, a coffee table and some accessories. And business went on. In the evenings all family packed parcels, and in 2 years the staff grew to 8 people. In 1953, Ingvar bought an old furniture factory, made it ready, and then took a risky step. He exhibited the furniture that the company traded there so that visitors could see the quality of the products with their own eyes. On the second floor, Ikea employees were selling coffee and cupcakes. That day, Ingvar saw 1,000 people interested in his company's products. During the day, crowds would come to the exhibition and at night Ikea would pack orders. In a tiny office and at one single table. Thus, Furniture sales, which I started by chance, and solely in order to outdo my competitors, has determined my fate. Ingvar Kamprad. Insight 3. Difficulties played an important role in the development of IKEA. The company was steadily growing. Ingvar followed the principle of economy, thrift, and tried to set the lowest prices possible. In this way, he made the company's products available to everyone. But his competitors saw him as a serious contender and began to outlive IKEA from the market. It was as if they had gone mad. Their methods were varied: advertising for their products, which supposedly made fun of IKEA, boycotts, bans, blackmail, anonymous letters. But that only inspired Kamprad and the IKEA staff. They spent the nights figuring out how to get around the obstacles. For example, in 1950 Kamprad was banned from attending furniture fairs and exhibiting its products at them. At that time, he opened several different companies and avoided the ban. That went on for several years. But IKEA wouldn't give up. It was compared to a multi-headed monster that had lost one head and was growing several new ones. Result: IKEA opened exhibition pavilions in 3 major Swedish cities. Fitted furniture also appeared due to the search for new possibilities. One of the company's principles is economy. One day, Ingvar and young designer Gillis Lundgren took pictures of a table, which then had to be packed. Gillis noticed that the table took up a lot of space and suggested removing the legs and then putting them under the tabletop. It was the first flat package. After a while, a whole series of collapsible furniture followed. The first shop in Sweden appeared in 1958. But the competitors did everything they could to prevent IKEA from developing. The prohibitions on supplying products to IKEA did not disappear. And instead of fighting, Ingvar and the company focused their efforts on conquering a new territory, Poland. The author calls this period, marriage to Europe. Poland became not only a supplier, but also a producer and consumer of the company's products. In 1964, an accident turned into an incredible success for IKEA. Scandinavia's largest newspaper, Alt-i-Hemmet, decided to study consumer interests. Competitors were intensely questioning the quality of IKEA products. Marianne Fredriksson, the magazine's publisher, wanted to find out for herself and went to Älmhult. She decided to finally find out the combination of functionality, quality and price of IKEA products. No one expected such an anonymous test result. In each test, IKEA furniture was the best. IKEA business philosophy is defined by one golden rule: treat any problem as a new opportunity. Ingvar Kamprad. Insight 4. Ingvar didn create a company, he created a family, not a business, but a lifestyle. Ingvar Kamprad's first helpers were his family members. His grandmother was his first and regular customer, his wife, children and other relatives helped him pack orders. So it wasn't unusual for him that IKEA was his family and he was its father. Working issues were discussed in conjunction with personal ones, conversations and delivery checks continued until late at night. Not surprisingly, he treated the company like his family. In the early 1970s, Ingvar Kamprad began to think more and more about what company would be like after his death. He had 3 sons, and if they inherited, they would pay high taxes. And the children were still underage. He was rejecting offers to make IKEA a joint stock company, but what to do next he had no idea. And Ingvar began preparations. He planned to make a double foundation that would own the business, and a number of other organizations besides him. It is known that he was looking for a country with low taxes, where it is possible to form a basic organization of the company and where there is stable legislation governing the work of the funds. IKEA's head office is in Denmark, the foundation is in the Netherlands, the coordination group is in Belgium, and the founder and his family are based in Switzerland. As Ingvar said, he had to leave Sweden in order for IKEA could survive and maintain its concept. Looking at the way IKEA has evolved, one can see how the original principles laid down by Ingvar Kamprad strengthen the company, ensure its stability and development. The company's vision is carefully formulated and its implementation is clearly controlled. This is why Inter-IKEA Systems was created. It's a kind of hearth keeper. It guarantees the development of the business concept, and this will help the company to maintain its integrity. That's what Ingvar Kamprad planned. Basic principles of life and work in the company: economy, simplicity, unpretentiousness, loyalty, mutual help, solidarity. Ingvar flew economy class, lived in cheap hotels and wore simple clothes. He demanded the same from all the company employees. No pathos, snobism or pretentious things. The company welcomed an informal, warm style of communication. And the conversation was like a meeting of two old friends. His house became an office, and the office became a house. The farm became a business enterprise for the boy, where his father was in charge of daily business and his mother was making coffee. So the family became a firm, so it is no surprise that later he began to treat his firm as a family. Bertil Torkel. Insight 5. Ingvar Kamprad tried to satisfy customers' needs, and it was a success. After opening his first store, Ingvar was selling coffee and buns on the second floor. As he himself recalls, buns were baked continuously and at high speed, because there were at least 1,000 people. Many years later, Ikea still cares not only about its revenue, but also about the convenience of its customers. Ikea stores are designed to have everything you need: toilets, ATMs, restaurants, children's rooms. The restaurant is located at the exit because people who are tired after shopping want to relax and eat. It is impossible to make purchases with children, and it is better to take them to a safe, specially equipped room. People like to save money. And some people have to do it. That's why IKEA has prices that differ significantly from those of its competitors. Ingvar once suggested selling hot dogs 3 times cheaper than everywhere else. The idea was accepted with disbelief, because to set such a price meant to sell almost without a surcharge. But Kamprad insisted, and now all the new super cheap products are called hot dogs. When Ingvar was in Italy, he wondered, why should poor people use vulgar and ugly things? Why can't furniture be simple and cheap? People have a need for beauty and aesthetics, and IKEA is able to meet that need. This thought has led him to work harder and generate new ideas. As far as IKEA is concerned, I am proud that it is oriented towards most people and their living conditions. This determines our assortment and price level. It inspires us to find better ways to work and new solutions. Ingvar Kamprad. Insight 6. Ingvar Kamprad has always found something to strive for. Ingvar was constantly looking for new ideas, new results. He monitored the products and prices of competitors and listened to the wishes of customers. And he was satisfied a few times. The book's co-author, Bertil Torkel, writes about the next IKEA staff meeting to discuss the annual report. The employees reported that the company's turnover exceeded 10 billion crowns for the first time. But at that moment, there was no applause or clapping of champagne caps. Ingvar Kamprad only said, "Gentlemen, I suggest a moment of silence so that we can all feel our success." Many years later, when a similar situation occurred again, Ingvar instructed the executive director to prepare a scenario for the next meeting of the deep crisis. On January 28, 2018, Ingvar Kamprad left this world. He often repeated that things would get easier. No matter how high the company reached, Kamprad always found something else to achieve. No matter how successful you are, there's always something else you have to do. And that's the rule of growth. What worries me most is that we can calm down, stop at what we've achieved. Ingvar Kamprad. Conclusion. Main idea. When circumstances take you in the ring, remember the path that Ingvar Kamprad took. Do not be afraid of difficulties, listen to yourself, change the world for the better, be on the side of the majority. Ingvar said, "We are still at the beginning of our journey. A magnificent future. The best work of art is yet to come, and yesterday's masterpiece is not yet finished." Ingvar Kamprad.